Hello, and welcome to The Mind of a Therapist, a podcast where we interview psychotherapists and helping professionals what they are passionate about in order to provide you with messages of encouragement and hope. The Mind of a Therapist is sponsored by Psychological Counseling Services, PCS, Healing Hearts and Transforming Lives. Please look into our intensive program at pcsintensive.com. I am Dr. Marcus Earle, the Clinical Director of PCS. Each episode will be hosted by me or another PCS therapist. Please enjoy the following discussion.
Hello, I'm Cristine Toel. I'm a licensed professional counselor at PCS.
And I am Doug Withrow, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist at PCS. I've been here for 18 years.
I'm bad at math. I've been here since 2012. How many years is that?
13.
Okay, good. Thanks.
13 years. And we've been started this young adult program, 12 years ago?
About 12 years ago.
Yeah. And we were having young adults come into our intensive program, which we had been doing for years. And there were some strides made for them in that. And it was, somewhat awkward, I think, at times for a 22-year-old to be in with a 45-year-old and a 60-year-old and someone who's married and having not that life experience.
Total different stages of life. So relating maybe to some of the emotional issues, but not where they were in their process in life.
Right, the circumstances. And so we adjusted the program and developed it for 18 to 26 years old and single to address the emotional issues, but also the life stage issues in a better way. So there is about, 50-60% of the week has been in individual therapy, and
the rest is group process.
Yeah, there is group process.
It's our favorite week at PCS.
Yeah, it's an awesome week.
It is, and in the past, just knowing some of the clients who have done that week and how they stay in touch because they bond so much with the people in their group. It's just awesome to see. They have once that initial bond happens, which is pretty quick. They really start to open up and they really start to help each other.
Right.
It's just awesome to see.
Yeah, and it's an experience for, I think, a lot of people who grow up without really knowing what connected, intimate relationships look like. And it's an experience of saying, hey, let's really be open and honest with us and find that there can be safety in that. And also, I'm not alone in it.
Right.
Because I think particularly when we're younger, I know I did. I kind of made up that everybody else was doing great and that I'm the only one who had struggles and so forth. And so when you open that up to the group and, it takes one person to share and then the next person share it and it's like, oh my gosh.
Right. And so we set it up similar to the to the regular program. They get the work from Marilyn Murray. We incorporate some internal family systems in that piece. They start to understand, there's different parts of me that operate at different times. This is how I try to, manage my life or protect myself. And how do I let some of those shields down, be more vulnerable and open? And then they start to understand this whole idea around the circles of intimacy and how they're in this really big transition to what, in our world, we call it individuation, but who am I separate from you? Right. Not that I'm not going to stay in relationship with you, but I have to figure out who I am separate first. And so they start to shift that circles of intimacy away from maybe parents, siblings into their adult life where maybe there's a lot of space there. They don't necessarily have a partner yet, have kids yet, but they are starting to define, what do I want that to look like? Yeah. And so they have that same basic structure. They do the trauma egg and start to look at okay, what experiences did I go through that held me back? What are some of those negative beliefs that have held me back? How do I figure out my strength even through all that so it doesn't define me?
How did I survive? Those coping strategies, and recognizing some of those coping strategies help me survive, but they're no longer effective. And so then I can start living intentionally and say, yeah, this works for me or this doesn't work for me.
Right. And then, right away that Monday night, they do, I don't call it psychodrama because I don't want to freak them out.
Yeah.
I call it resolution theater, where they really get that chance to get on their feet and open up about like, what am I, no stone unturned, what am I here to deal with or resolve? And just takes, that first kind of warm up where they all start opening up and then doing that process, helping them, do a piece of work that is really healing together as a group. And then it's, the rest of the week just carries that bond. It's really awesome.
And it carries a bond in the group. And also the group experience informs their individual experience. And then they have some things that are stirred up, some emotions, some experiences, relational stuff that gets stirred up in the group. And then they can take that into their individual therapy and learn some new coping skills, do some trauma work. How do I show up with siblings and parents and friends in ways that are more productive versus kind of the old way of doing. Now I, as an adult, I can start having some say in how I want my life to look.
Right, and practicing those conversations, doing that piece.
Right. I think a lot of the work is experiential. It's not, there's some insight pieces to it. There's some educational pieces to it. But there's also this experiential being in touch with emotion, having empty chair and talking, having, conversations with what would a conversation with mom and dad look like? What would a conversation with a boyfriend or girlfriend look like? And so I can actually begin to internalize what's going on.
Yes, because, they're coming off middle school and high school and even college in a way where you have to, the idea of being vulnerable is unsafe or scary or awkward. And, they're having the opposite experience with this group as the group is opening up. And I think it must feel hopeful. Like, oh, okay, I don't have to wear those masks for the rest of my life. I actually get to move into a phase of life where I can be more authentic. Yeah. And that's a relief.
Yeah. And empowering. I get to be me.
Yep.
I get to be me. And I can be accepted for me. And so then in launching it, then it's how do I take this, what I've learned during this week, and then implement it in my life? And we get to that point where we're actually making some plans. And so what are my next steps?
Yeah, and we help them focus on, what are their values, what is important to them, maybe even career focus. That they are, as part of this individuation process, discovering who they are, what matters to you and what do you want to pursue.
Yeah.
And then, what's in your life that you might be using to solve problems that are working against you and holding you back.
Yeah.
Whether that's substances or relationships or negative thought systems, what are some of those things that, are handcuffing you from living a full, happy, peaceful life?
Yeah. And then, and with that is this building of confidence as the week progresses. Right. And I know that sounds crazy for some people as the week progresses, like, can you do it that fast? Yeah, I mean, we've seen dramatic change in how people show up during that intensive week.
Which, because I think we carry that PCS value, which is that people are wildly capable.
Yeah.
And
right.
the younger, even more so than the older who come here. They're smart and they figure things out very quickly. Yeah. They see everything. It's just almost maybe giving themselves permission to say what they know and then let that carry them through.
They have a wise part.
Yep.
They have a wise part. And it's not just I'm very capable. It's I am very, what's the word? I'm very, not confident. You're going to have to help me here.
I'm trying.
There is the movement that happens over that week is goes down to the core sense of self. Oh, here's what I was going to say. It goes to the core sense of self. I'm not just capable, but the things that have been hurtful for me, I can heal. And so I think when a lot of people have gone through a lifetime of they've held on to these traumas that happened so young, they begin to get this mindset, I can never heal from that, so let's just shove that stuff down.
Right.
And being able to address those traumas so early, it's go, I can heal. I can handle some really tough stuff, and I can come out on the other side.
And even see what strengths came from that, or what was the silver lining even in those things, because it made me who I am, and I can tap into that.
Yeah. And it's all about self-discovery.
Right.
And we facilitate that, but when someone shows up just by being here, they're taking a courageous step and saying, I want to get to know me. I want to heal. I want to figure this out. And really, it's just taking that step to kind of get in the door to say, okay, I'm going to take a risk here. And if you get here, then some serious changes can take place.
That's right.
Right.
And then they won't have to come back here when they're 40 and 50.
That's right.
That's the hope.
Because that's what we hear a lot of times.
Yes.
Is from the 40, 50, 60 is, why didn't I do this when I was 20? And for most of us, that wasn't an option when we were 20.
That's right.
And right now, there is an option to kind of dive into it.
So last week in July?
Last week in July, yep. And get in as soon as you can, because it starts, registration starts picking up as we start moving through July pretty quick. And we do have a limited number of people who can attend that. So if you're thinking about it, give Cambria a call.
Yeah. In
the front office.
And the weather's not great here. We can't promise good weather, but we can promise really good work.
And we have air conditioning.
That's true.
We do have air conditioning. But yeah, it's a really positive experience. I'm excited every year when it comes around. We have new therapists on board who keep injecting new energy into the young adult program. And so it's a growing, vibrant piece of what we do at BCS.
And there's a lightness in the building when this week happens.
Oh, yes.
It is it's a more hopeful place to be.
It really is. There's just that positive vibe of kind of focus on the future.
Yes. I love it.
All right.
Please press the subscribe button, as well as rating and providing a review of our podcast. This helps others to connect with what you have been hearing. If you have any questions, please contact us at themindofatherapist@gmail.com. These questions will be kept anonymous. I want to thank Eric Price for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. Additionally, this podcast was created to provide accurate and authoritative information on the subject matter. Although we are interviewing licensed therapists, they are not your therapist. This podcast is not intended to serve as direct medical advice and should not be used as a substitute for direct professional help. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, publisher, guest, or PCS are rendering legal, medical, or clinical professional information. If you need a professional, we encourage you to find one. Visit Psychology Today to find a licensed clinician near you.